The Galactic Council was the heart of the known galaxy. It was not built on a planet but upon a colossal station that orbited a dying star. Its halls stretched wider than cities, and its ceilings shimmered with artificial starlight, taken from suns long extinguished. Delegates from every corner of the galaxy filled the grand chamber, their voices echoing across the polished walls of silver and crystal. On ordinary days, the council was a place of order, debate, and the endless dance of politics. But this day was not ordinary. Something strange had shaken the galaxy, something none of them had expected. And so the council called for an emergency gathering. Whispers ran through the hall before the speaker of the council even rose to begin the meeting. Words floated like sparks from one delegate to another, each more fearful than the last. At first it had been rumors, then it became reports. Now it was undeniable. A new ship had appeared at the edges of council space. It did not belong to the Avari, nor to the proud Vornak dominion, nor to any of the lesser species that the council recognized. Its design was foreign, its systems unreadable, its size unlike anything recorded. And then came the word that sent a ripple of dread through them all, humans. The word itself seemed heavy, like a curse carried across centuries. Some laughed nervously, refusing to believe it. Others grew pale, scales shivering, wings tightening, tendrils curling in unease. The young among them had only heard the name in myths, in frightening tales whispered by the old. But the elders, the ones who still carried fragments of the past, knew better. Their eyes darkened and their hearts sank. Humans were not supposed to exist anymore. Long ago they had vanished. Wars, destruction, and silence had erased them from the galactic stage. For thousands of years, no trace of them was found. No fleets, no colonies, nothing. Only ruins and the echoes of their reputation remained. And yet now a ship had appeared carrying their mark. The speaker of the council, a tall and aged being of the Lothari species, struck the staff of authority against the floor. The sound silenced the room, though fear still clung to the air like smoke. "We gather here not for legends," the speaker said, voice trembling despite the attempt at strength. "We gather because something, someone, has entered our galaxy's borders. Reports confirm. It bears the symbol of Earth." The hall erupted once again, louder than before. Delegates argued, their voices rising like storms. "This is impossible," shouted one. "They were destroyed ages ago," cried another. "If they survived, then why have they waited until now?" Questions piled on questions, but no one had answers. Only fear. For centuries, the galaxy had ruled itself in the absence of humanity. Empires had risen, wars had been fought, alliances had been made and broken. But through it all, the shadow of humans lingered. The old records spoke of them as warriors unmatched, as survivors who never yielded, as builders of fleets that could darken stars. Now, with even the suggestion of their return, the council trembled. What if the humans had grown stronger in their silence? What if their single ship was only the beginning? What if the galaxy was about to face a storm it could not withstand? The speaker tried once more to calm the chamber, but the fear was already alive. And somewhere deep in the minds of the oldest delegates, a memory stirred, a memory of battlefields where humans had once stood, unbroken, against impossible odds. The myths were not just stories. The name human carried with it a weight that no other species could match. It was not just a word, it was a warning. And as the council looked upon the reports of that massive warship drifting into their borders, they realized a truth that none wanted to say aloud. The past was no longer buried. The legends were walking again. The galaxy was about to change forever. Far from the noise of the council chambers, out in the silent sea of space, the truth revealed itself. In the system of twin suns, a shadow moved slowly across the stars. At first, it seemed like a drifting asteroid or some broken piece of wreckage. But as fleets from nearby sectors arrived and adjusted their scans, their disbelief deepened. This was no wreckage. This was a ship, and not just any ship. It was vast, larger than anything they had ever recorded. Its hull gleamed black, darker than the void around it, swallowing the light of the suns as though the stars themselves bent to its will. Along its surface ran markings, lines etched like scars of war, and at its center was a crest, faded, weathered, but still recognizable. A blue and white symbol that many thought belonged only to forgotten records, the crest of Earth. A silence gripped the fleets watching from a distance. Every commander, every crew member stared at their screens, struggling to believe what their eyes told them. It was a human warship. But how? Why now? And how could something so massive exist without them knowing? One captain, his hands trembling, against the console whispered into the silence of his bridge, "It cannot be real." Yet the scans did not lie. The energy signatures were stronger than any dreadnought, stronger even than the combined force of their largest fleets. Its weapons arrays stretched across its hull like claws of a predator waiting to strike. Its shields pulsed faintly, humming with power far beyond anything in the Council's records. Then, without warning, the ship stirred. Engines the size of cities ignited with a slow, deep glow, painting the void in pale blue light. The warship moved forward, steady and calm, as though time itself obeyed its command. The fleets watching flinched, their fingers hovering over triggers, but no shot was fired. The human ship did not threaten. It did not raise its weapons. It simply revealed itself, confident and unafraid. And then came the message. Across every channel, in every language of the Council, the transmission arrived, simple, heavy, impossible to ignore. "We are humanity. We have returned." The word spread like fire. Fleets scrambled to forward the transmission. Worlds lit up with alerts. On the Council station, the message was replayed, echoing through the Grand Hall. Delegates froze, their eyes wide, their breath caught in their throats. It was not a rumor anymore. It was not myth or ghost or story. It was truth. Humanity was alive. Humanity was here. And their first words were not of war, not of conquest, but of return. Still, fear clung to every mind. Because with the warship's silent power came the reminder of what humans once were. Survivors, fighters, builders of weapons that turned empires to ash. And though the ship had spoken peacefully, its presence alone was a warning more powerful than any threat. Some of the younger species could not understand the fear. To them, it was just one ship, one vessel among many. But the elders knew. They remembered the way humans fought when cornered, the way they refused to surrender, the way they always came back stronger. To see a human warship again after so many ages was not just strange. It was terrifying. As the massive vessel continued its slow approach, the fleets around it dared not move closer. Every commander feared that even a small misstep might unleash a storm they could not survive. And in the council chambers, silence lingered long after the message ended. No one dared speak. No one dared breathe too loudly. Because in that moment, every species of the galaxy realized something. The galaxy had been living in the absence of humans for thousands of years. And now, that absence had ended. The legends were awake. The storm had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The council chamber, already restless, exploded into chaos after the message was replayed. The voice of the human warship echoed, still in the walls, deep and steady, yet the delegates shouted over it as though trying to bury its sound with noise. "They cannot be real," cried a Navari delegate, wings flaring wide. "It must be a trick, a machine built by someone else." "No machine could carry such power," snarled a representative of the Koran, his scaled fists slamming against the desk. "Did you not see the scans? Their weapons are beyond anything we have." The speaker struck the staff again and again, trying to bring order, but the voices only grew louder. Fear had taken control. For centuries, the galaxy had lived without humans. Without their strange, relentless spirit. Empires had risen in that absence. Borders had been redrawn. Wars had been fought and won without anyone whispering the name of Earth. But now, with one message, with one ship, everything felt uncertain again. Some of the younger delegates scoffed. To them, humans were only a story, a shadow of the past. They did not understand why the chamber trembled. "It is one ship," a young Zirathi delegate declared boldly, his silver eyes glowing. "One vessel cannot challenge the might of the council. If they come to rule, we will unite and crush them." The elders turned toward him with slow, heavy gazes. They did not share his courage. They shared something else: memory. An ancient Veyran, her body frail, her voice cracked with age, spoke softly, but her words carried across the chamber. "You have not seen them. I have. I was but a child when their fleets burned through the Rim Wars. I watched them fight. I watched them win battles they had no right to win." The hall quieted for a moment. Even the speaker lowered his staff. "They do not surrender," the old Veyran continued. "They do not accept defeat. Where we count numbers, they count only will. Where we flee, they stand. Where we die, they endure." Her eyes glistened as if she were staring at ghosts. "That was when their fleets were many. If even one ship has returned now, then I tell you, fear is not foolish. Fear is wisdom." The silence that followed her words was heavier than the noise that came before. For the first time, the younger delegates understood why the elders trembled. Still, fear turned quickly into argument. Some demanded preparation for war, believing that the humans had come to conquer. Others suggested negotiation, claiming that if humanity had wanted blood, they would have already taken it. The debate circled endlessly, like vultures chasing one another in the sky. But deep inside, every delegate knew the truth they refused to say aloud. The human warship had spoken, of return, not of conquest. Yet its very existence reminded them of what humans were capable of. A counselor of the Dominion finally shouted above the rest, voice shaking with both rage and fear. "If we allow them space, they will take more. If we grant them peace, they will use it to prepare for war. Humanity is a shadow that cannot be trusted." Others hissed and growled in agreement, but just as many sat in silence, unsure, their minds weighed down by doubt. The speaker, weary and pale, looked across the chamber filled with fear and division. He saw no unity, no decision, only trembling voices, and he felt something he had not felt in centuries: helplessness. Outside the chamber, the stars waited. The human warship drifted still, vast and silent, its presence a question that the galaxy could not answer. The Council feared it. The Council hated it. But more than anything, the Council could not ignore it, because in that moment, every species understood the same truth. The galaxy's balance had ended. Humanity had returned, and with them came the weight of legend, and legends were not easily defeated. While the Council argued in fear and anger, the human warship remained still. It did not fire its weapons. It did not advance with aggression. It simply waited, watching, as if it knew the galaxy needed time to face its presence. Then, without warning, the ship spoke again. The transmission spread across every frequency, reaching not only the council chamber but fleets, colonies, and distant listening posts. The voice was deep and calm, carrying no arrogance yet filled with a strength that demanded attention. "We are humanity. We have endured the silence of ages. We did not come to conquer. We did not come to destroy. We come because we have heard the cries of this galaxy." The words poured like steady rain across the fearful stars. In the council hall, delegates froze, their arguments silenced. The voice of the ship carried no threat, yet it shook them more deeply than any weapon could. "We have watched," the voice continued. "Worlds burning, borders bleeding, the innocent suffering, while the powerful wage endless war. We did not rise from silence to rule over you. We rise because we cannot ignore you." The chamber grew colder. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others lowered their heads. There was something in the tone of that voice. Something old, something scarred, as if it carried not just strength, but sorrow. The ship went on. You believe us extinct. You thought our name belonged only to legend. You thought time erased us. But humanity does not vanish. We endure. In darkness, in silence, in exile, we endure. Now we stand before you again, not as myth, not as memory, but as truth. The words struck like lightning. The younger delegates who once laughed at the fear of their elders sat pale and speechless. The older ones who remembered ancient wars closed their eyes and listened with hearts heavy. The human voice softened, almost like a whisper across the stars. We know you fear us. We know our name carries shadows. But hear this. We did not come to shatter. We came to shield. The galaxy suffers because no one stands for those who cannot defend themselves. We will stand. For a moment, silence stretched across the chamber, thick and unbearable. Some felt a strange relief in the words. Others felt only deeper fear. Because if the humans claimed the role of guardians, what power could oppose them? One delegate from the Vornak Dominion hissed, "Lies. They speak of protection, but what they mean is control." His words echoed the suspicion in many hearts. Yet none could deny that the human ship had already shown mercy by not firing upon anyone. The message ended with a vow, clear and sharp, like a blade cutting through the void. Stand with us, or stand aside. But know this, no longer will tyrants rule unchallenged. No longer will the helpless be forgotten. The galaxy will not tremble in fear of cruelty, not while we live. Then the transmission cut. The ship fell silent once more, its massive frame drifting like a dark mountain against the twin suns. The council chamber remained frozen. Not a voice rose for several long moments. Even the speaker did not strike his staff. The words still echoed in every mind, replaying again and again. Some felt hope. Could humanity truly be what it claimed? A shield, a guardian, a force to end the endless suffering of the weaker worlds? Others felt only dread. Because if the humans had returned with such power, then whether they promised war or peace, the galaxy would never again belong to the Council. It would belong to them. And so silence and fear spread together across the Great Hall. Humanity had spoken. The galaxy now had to decide whether to listen or resist. The Council had heard the message, but not everyone believed. Fear held many, silent, yet pride and arrogance burned in others. Among them, none was prouder, none more dangerous, than the Vornak Dominion. The Vornak were conquerors by blood. Their empire stretched across hundreds of systems, their fleets unmatched in number. To them, fear was weakness and mercy was an insult. They ruled through strength, and they trusted only the blade of war. So when the human warship spoke of guardianship, of standing against tyranny, the Vornak took it as a challenge to their throne. In the council chamber, Admiral Zorak of the Dominion rose, his armored body towering above most. His voice was like a growl as it thundered across the hall. "You tremble at shadows," he mocked. "You cower at words carried by a machine. I see only a ship. One ship. The Dominion will not bow to ghosts. We will shatter this relic, and, with its wreck, we will remind the galaxy that power belongs to us." Many delegates gasped. Others tried to silence him, but the Admiral had already sent his orders. Across the Twin Sun system, the Dominion's fleet surged into position. 500 warships formed a wall of steel and fire. Cruisers, destroyers, dreadnoughts, each armed to the teeth, each ready to prove the Dominion's dominance. The human vessel did not move. It drifted slowly, like a giant at rest, watching, as the Dominion's ships locked targets. The void grew tense, silent, as though the stars themselves were waiting. Then Admiral Zorak gave the command. Fire! A storm of plasma, missiles, and beams lit the void. Hundreds of warships unleashed. Their fury at once. Explosions flared against the human ship's shields, shaking the darkness with fire and light. But when the blaze faded, the warship remained untouched. Its shields glowed faintly, calm and steady, like ripples across a still lake. On the Dominion, bridges, crews shouted in disbelief. They increased power. They fired again. Again and again, the void burned with weapons fire. Yet nothing touched the human vessel. It was as if it were wrapped in the strength of a star itself. And then, the warship answered. Its hull glowed with sudden light. A single cannon turned, massive and terrible, charging with energy so bright it blinded the sensors. The human ship did not unleash all its weapons. It did not strike in rage. It fired once. One beam of pure energy cut through the void like a blade, through silk. It swept across the Dominion fleet in silence, and when it ended, half the fleet was gone. Ships that had stood for centuries, war machines that had broken empires, vanished in an instant, torn apart like paper before flame. The survivors scattered in panic, engines roaring as they fled into hyperspace, their pride shattered as completely as their fleet. The void was quiet once more. The human warship drifted forward, weapons cooling, silent again. It had not chased the fleeing ships. It had not destroyed them all. It had shown power and mercy. In the council chamber, horror gripped every delegate. They had seen with their own eyes what the humans could do. 500 warships had been reduced to wreckage by a single shot. Some whispered prayers. Others trembled, too stunned to speak. But the truth was clear to all. The human ship had not fought to conquer. It had fought to show a lesson, a warning. The galaxy finally understood. This was not just a warship. This was a message. The destruction of the Vornak fleet echoed across the galaxy like thunder rolling through endless skies. 500 warships, proud, merciless, feared, reduced to silence by a single human strike. The survivors fled, carrying with them the tale of their humiliation. The council chamber sat in heavy silence. No one argued, no one shouted. Even the boldest delegates sat pale and trembling, their eyes haunted by what they had witnessed. The speaker finally broke the silence, his voice low, heavy with dread. You have seen, you have all seen. Humanity has returned. We must decide. Do we stand against them, or do we stand with them? The question stirred unease like a storm in still waters. One delegate, her voice sharp with fear, rose. If they can destroy fleets, with one weapon, then to resist them is madness. Better to kneel, better to submit than to be burned from the stars. A murmur of agreement swept through the hall. Some nodded, too terrified to imagine another confrontation, but others bristled at the thought of surrender. They speak of guardianship. A representative from the fragile Nayari worlds said softly. They did not finish the Dominion fleet. They spared those who fled. That is not conquest. That is mercy. Perhaps they speak the truth. Mercy? Growled a counselor from T. A Dominion, his voice sharp as a blade. His empire had been humiliated, his pride torn apart. Do not call it mercy. It is arrogance. They choose who lives, who dies as if they are gods. If we let them stand, soon we will all be their slaves. In the chamber broke into arguments again, voices rising, wings flaring, tendrils thrashing, claws scratching against tables. Fear and anger twisted together until no one knew where one ended and the other began. Some cried for alliance. Others screamed for war. But beneath all the noise, one truth remained. None could deny the power they had seen. Humanity had proven with one strike what no empire had dared to imagine. They could end fleets in a heartbeat. The speaker struck his staff, his voice ringing like thunder. Silence. The chamber stilled once more, though unease rippled through the air. You argue as though choice belongs to us, the speaker said slowly. But I ask you, does it? Do we truly have power to decide against them? Or has humanity already decided for us? The words pierced like knives. Delegates looked away, unable to answer. The truth was bitter. The council prided itself on ruling the galaxy, yet now they were not rulers. They were witnesses to a force beyond their reach. Still, in the hearts of many, something unexpected stirred. Not just fear, but hope. For ages, weaker worlds had suffered. Entire colonies had burned while the council debated endlessly. Empires like the Dominion had thrived on conquest, unchecked by anyone strong enough to oppose them. Now, at last, a voice had risen that said, "No more." Was it truly slavery, if humanity stood as a shield? Or was it salvation? The old Varen elder, the one who had spoken earlier of her childhood memories, rose again. Her voice shook, but her eyes burned bright. Listen well. We may fear them, yes, but ask yourselves, when was the last time you saw a power hold back when victory was certain? The humans had us all in their grasp, yet they let go. That restraint speaks louder than destruction. Her words settled over the chamber like a blanket. For a moment, the noise faded. For a moment, they considered the truth. The council faced a choice, but it was not simple. To fight meant certain ruin. To accept meant surrendering pride. Yet somewhere between fear and hope, a path lingered. Perhaps humanity's return was not the end of the galaxy. Perhaps it was a beginning. The council had fallen into silence again. The arguments, the shouts, the fears, all faded when the human warship stirred once more. Its massive hull turned slightly, the light of the twin suns gliding over its surface. For a long moment, nothing happened. Delegates leaned forward in their seats, fleets across the stars held their breath, and countless civilians on distant worlds waited. Then the transmission began. The voice of humanity returned, deep, steady, filled with something beyond fear or pride. It carried sorrow, but also strength. We are the children of Earth. Long have we wandered in silence, hidden from your eyes, waiting. We did not return to rule. We did not return to kneel. We returned because the galaxy is crying, and no one listens. The words struck the chamber like a blade through the heart. Delegates shifted uneasily, but none dared interrupt. The voice grew stronger, sharper. We have seen empires rise on conquest. We have seen the weak crushed beneath the boots of the strong. We have seen worlds burn while the council argued in circles. That time ends now. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Never before had anyone spoken to the council with such boldness, such defiance. Yet the humans spoke as if they feared nothing. The transmission continued. You remember us as destroyers, as warriors who fought without mercy. You remember battles we should have lost yet did not. You remember fleets that fell before us even when we stood alone. Those memories are true. We are fighters. We are survivors. But today, we are something more. The voice softened, heavy with emotion. Our guardians, and we swear this oath, no longer will the innocent be abandoned. No longer will tyrants crush the helpless without consequence. If you stand with us, we will stand with you. If you stand against us, then stand aside. For we will not stop. The chamber trembled. The words carried no anger, no arrogance. They carried conviction, carved from centuries of silence and survival. Some delegates lowered their eyes, humbled. Others clenched their fists in quiet fury. But all of them understood. This was not an offer. It was a promise. The message ended not with a threat, but with an act. The massive warship turned away from the council's systems. Its engines roared softly, glowing like newborn stars. The ship set its course toward a distant colony world, one that had been burning under the Dominion's cruelty, sending distress signals for weeks without answer. The galaxy watched as the human warship crossed the void. It did not hesitate. It did not negotiate. It went where help was needed, and as it vanished into the stars, the council sat frozen, trembling, yet changed. For the first time in centuries, they were not the most powerful force in the galaxy. For the first time, they felt the presence of something greater, not an empire, not a conqueror, but a guardian. The old Varen elder whispered into the silence, her voice breaking yet filled with awe. They have returned, and the galaxy will never be the same again. The chamber remained quiet, but in every heart the truth was written. Humanity had unveiled itself. Humanity had spoken. Humanity had vowed. The legends were no longer shadows. The Guardians had awakened, and across the galaxy, tyrants trembled. 4. Everyone now knew. The age of fear had ended. The age of humanity had begun.